Hello, my name is Alex, and I am a digital advertising expert. I've been in advertising for approximately 7 years, out of which for 3 years I've been building and running my own marketing agency. I specialize in target marketing, strategy building, and media adaptation. We have worked with government agencies like Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Culture. We have worked with military contractors, with brands like Nike and Sony, and a list of other companies, from smaller cafes and restaurants to international e-commerce businesses. I have also taught multiple lectures in business schools, which are part of the reason why I'm doing this course right here, right now. So, the purpose of this course is a rather simple one. It is for me to explain comprehensively and without any bullshit what is marketing, how it is done, and how you can get into it with minimum investments, yet with some effort nevertheless. The second purpose of this course is for it to be an introduction, a free one and widely accessible one through which you can learn and then come to my professional courses for business specialists and experts, which will be more in depth and more specialized, yet these courses will have a price tag attached to them. So, what is marketing? Generally speaking, marketing is a process of turning a product or a service desirable or more appealing and then guiding the potential client through the funnel, so to say, towards making that purchase and hopefully staying in the loop of making these purchases again. Marketing is an industry, so to say. There are many positions and slots to fill if you want to work in that industry. For example, there's graphic design, there's copywriting, there is a digital advertising, classic advertising, voice acting, and a lot of other things. But to that, we will come back later. The second question you might ask is, what do you need to start marketing something? Honestly speaking, nowadays, a modern phone is enough. If you have an iPhone or an Android, for example, you can access all necessary tools to set up campaigns and to plan things, to create content whatsoever. So, a phone or a computer, but preferably to have both, because some things are just more effectively done on a computer rather than a phone. When it comes to other tools and software that you might eventually need in marketing, well, that is not a subject for this video, simply because there are too many tools, they are updated way too often, and you need different tools for different jobs in marketing. So for example, if you're an analyst or you're setting up the technical part of digital ads, well, you need one set of tools. But if you're a graphic designer, there's a completely different set of tools and skills you need to be good at it. So I would say that right now, that is irrelevant. You mainly need a phone and a computer, and you need to be flexible with your mind so that you can learn, adapt, and optimize. So, where do you begin? The first step is an honest self-assessment, and I'm stressing the word honest because here you need to put aside all of your opinions of yourself. You need to look yourself straight in the eyes and tell yourself objectively what are the things that you are good at, what are the things you are bad at, what are your strong sides, your weaknesses, and also how you are being perceived by people when interacting with them in public or in private. Let me explain. So, for example, if I was getting into marketing after listening to my course, I would do as follows. On a scale of physical attractiveness, I am probably somewhere around a 4. But I also have tattoos on my fingers, on my wrists, on my face, and on my neck. Thus, people might perceive me less favorably for whatever reasons. And if I am planning to do corporate advertising, then probably I will encounter many, let's say, older and more conservative people, which means I will be judged for my tattoos. Thus, I need to be more diplomatic and well articulated in order to be able to connect with them and build more trust towards me, because otherwise I will not be able to sell them my services as an advertiser. For example, if I'm more attractive or you are more attractive, it will be easier to appeal to people, which will make it more favorable for them to act favorably upon your offers. If you are less attractive, objectively speaking, then well, you need to be more charismatic and whatever else. Then also, it's important to assess your skills and experience. For example, if you know how to draw, it will be easier for you to get into graphic design, or you will be more able to curate how a designer should create or design the materials for your next campaign or your client. If you're good at writing, for example, it will be easier for you to do copywriting. It will be easier for you to write headings and descriptions for things and general campaign materials. If you, for example, are good at, chess, or you're good at strategic thinking, it will be easier for you to plan the campaign, so you might have an advantage there. And if you speak multiple languages, you will have more chances to be successful at media adaptation or targeting different demographics and nationalities. Because, for example, what allowed me to grow in the industry rather quickly was my ability to speak 4 languages. So by speaking Estonian, Russian, English, and German, I am able to not just translate the materials, but also adapt them in a way that they would be more natural to the nationalities, languages of which I speak. Because again, for example, let's take Estonia, right? Here we have mostly Estonians and Russians. They were born in the same country, they are of the same nation, so to say, yet they have cultural differences, which also affects their behavior online and in commerce. For example, Estonian people tend to do more online shopping, Russians do online window shopping, and then they go to the store to buy that product there. So that needs to be taken into consideration when you are starting to get into advertising. Also, take into consideration your experience and your previous jobs, because if you have worked for multiple years, for example in gastronomy, restaurants or bars or cafes, you already have some sort of an advantage. For example, it will be easier for you to target audiences of these locations, so you can start off offering your services to bars, cafes, and restaurants. And also, you can offer your services as a newfound advertiser to the companies you have worked for previously. If you have had a great relationship with them, it will be much easier for you to strike a deal and have your first client right off the bat. It is also reasonably important to consider what is your financial situation at the moment. You don't necessarily need money to start marketing things or offering your services to anyone, but for example, if you do have a couple of thousand saved up and you've just quit or lost your job, then you have a safety net. And through having that safety net, you can take more time learning and, let's say, trying the waters, instead of just having to jump into it because you don't have any money saved up and you need to feed yourself or your family one way or the other. And also, in case if you are less social or you have difficulty communicating with people in person, or you have any other things that are making sales difficult for you, then you would also need some amounts of money to market your own marketing services online, either via social media or Google Ads or whatever else. But again, reminding that you don't necessarily need money to start marketing. As long as you have a phone or a computer and access to the internet, which is available in most places, or just go to a public cafe, you can already start creating things, you can already start planning things, contacting potential clients, or whatever else you need to do to get the job done. And lastly, in regards to honest self-assessment, you also need to think about the direction in which you want to go when being in the marketing industry. Marketing is a wide industry, starting from design and writing to the technical part and SEO optimization. But based on your honest self-assessment, you should have a pretty clear idea of where you can fit in or where you want to start. But again, it's not a final decision, because throughout experimentations and trials and errors, you will eventually find your spot. Because in the same way, I started in one place and grew to a completely other one through trial and error. Because again, I've done graphic design for about 12 years, and somewhere around, I don't remember which year, I also started participating in event organization, nightclub parties mostly. And then I also started setting up digital ads or doing social media. For a while I did social media management for cafes and restaurants. For a while I was a product photographer and a restaurant menu photographer, because I just had a camera and I needed to make money, so I did that. But eventually grew to creative directing and consulting, and again, yes, teaching courses and lectures. The second step in your introduction into the industry of marketing is market and audience overview. Starting worldwide is rather difficult, expensive, and inefficient. Starting to offer your services in a different country is also a rather difficult task to take on. So I would highly recommend you to start offering your services and learning the audiences in your local area, which means your city and your country mostly, or your county, depends on the size. Get to know the market on the business side. Get to know what industries are popular, growing, or decaying in your area. What products and services are in demand and why they are in demand. Are they expensive or accessible? Get to know the consumers. Who are they? Is your country struggling financially or economically? What is the life quality in your country? What are the crime rates? What is trending on social media in your country and area or city? What do you observe when you go out? What do you see people doing? What do you see people having? What brands? This and that. You can also use different tools like Google Trends for it, or again, social media, one of the best indicators. Because through knowing your markets, your local markets, the businesses that are working around you, and what are people consuming, it will be easier for you to assess what businesses you should approach. Because if you approach a business that is struggling, they probably won't have the finances to hire you. But if you approach a business that is just starting in an industry that is in demand, and they have investments, then they will be able to hire you and pay you reasonable paychecks for your services. And if you observe the audiences, it will be, again, easier for you to assess what products and services will be easier to market and to who they will be easier to market, and if other products will be harder to advertise. Because again, coming from personal experiences, I've had clients who have had services and products up for marketing that were just completely unnecessary. And if your audience is not children, they will probably be, let's say, aware enough to not buy it regardless of how you advertise things to them. Other example would be teaching the consumer is always much harder and expensive than offering a similar but a bit different solution to the same consumer with a thing that they are already acquainted with. And when you're looking at the audiences in your local area, it is also good to assess what are their unique cultural qualities. For example, Estonians are more quiet and antisocial than Russians. So coming from that, you can draw some conclusions, let's say, in the context of the client, the product or service that you are about to market. And the third step would be finding your first clients, starting to build your portfolio, and building trust and confidence. Your portfolio is your face, in a way. By your portfolio and by your cases, potential new clients or partners will be judging the value and the trust that they can put on you in regards to marketing their products or services. For example, when I was just starting, I had a rather small portfolio in regards to the ad campaigns that I've done. There were very few and they weren't that, let's say, excellent. But I had a big design portfolio. That allowed me to have some works in a folder, and when I was approaching clients, that made it a bit easier for me to get them to trust me to buy my services. And in regards to the same example, when my list of satisfied clients was growing and the names were becoming more recognizable, it made selling myself even easier. Because, for example, when I was the very beginner version of myself, one meeting with a client took me like from 40 minutes to 1.5 hours, which were me trying to convince him that he should trust me to buy my services. And, well, it was, let's say, not too difficult, but it took time. And I can understand them, because when you see a young man with a face tattoos who is saying that, yeah, you should trust thousands of your euros to me, trust me, bro, not that good. But after a couple of years, when I've already worked with a few contractors or government agencies, my job became much easier in regards to those client meetings. I could just say, look, I have worked with these businesses, and that was it. They were like, okay, so how much do you want? Yet again, that was possible because I already had somewhat of a name in my area. If you don't have that, well, then you should start with offering your services to your family, friends, and people around you. If they have businesses or know people who have businesses, you can try approaching them, either for free just to fill their portfolio, or for some symbolic amount of money, or if you are able to convince them, then for a full-on price. But again, coming back to pricing your works, if you mark up your price, you also need to provide a worthy service, because in advertising, you need to be rather transparent with your clients, especially in digital, because everything can be tracked. The amounts spent, the clicks, the impressions, everything. It all can be tracked. The traffic can be analyzed, and if you're putting ridiculous prices on your services without backing it up with something, well, you will rather quickly be shunned from the industry. Because professionals communicate between each other, business owners communicate between each other, and if you are offering bad services, no one will want to hire you. In that regard, being pedantic with my work has allowed me to spend minimum amounts of money on marketing myself or my agency. Because I've always put in a lot of effort into completing my work well, my clients were 99% of the time satisfied with my work. Thanks to that, I've only spent like maybe 200 euros on advertising the agency or my portfolio or some services or whatsoever. All of my traffic has come through recommendations, which means clients came to me. I didn't even have to go to them. And so you preferably want to grow towards a similar situation. And hopefully I'll be able to provide you with enough information for you to at least start making the first steps in that direction. Okay, so let's get to work now. Let's imagine that you talk to some friend who has a business that is available online, and you want to start offering them digital marketing services as an experiment, so to say. And they give you, let's say, 200 euros of budget to work with, right? Before you start doing anything, the first thing you want to do is to analyze your friend's business in the moment. You want to check out their website to see if everything works, if everything looks nice and neat, if the website is accessible enough and all that. There are many tools available for that, and I'm pretty sure by now you can use AI to do it for you. But analyzing the current situation of your client is the first step you make every single time. When you have checked their website, you can also check their social media. Find all of their profiles or just ask them for their links and analyze everything. See how many posts they publish a month. What is the engagement? How many followers do they have? Do they have real followers or those are bots? Because those will be, first of all, your arguments in the negotiations and key points when planning the strategy and setting up ads and targeting. Also, it's rather reasonable to search their products or services on Google Trends to see in general, are people looking for those things. Also do a bit of market analysis. Google the service or the product and see who else is offering it, what their landing pages are looking like, what's their social media like, what's their engagement, so you have a clear overview of the competition. When you have analyzed the business, it is time for you to get to the point of negotiations, which means usually you either have a video call, phone call, or an in-person meeting. I always prefer to have in-person meetings because I just enjoy connecting with people, let's say, in real life, because it's easier to read the person in that situation, and it's easier to adapt your behavior, tone of your voice, or the atmosphere to make that person more open for you and your suggestions. So when you get to the negotiations, the first thing you want to do is understand who is the person you are talking to. It's easy if they're your friend, right? But for example, if you're meeting a person who is 30 years older than you, from a completely different background, you need to be able to read them to understand where they're coming from, what are their values, their interests, their pain points, what words are they using and how are they using them, because you need to adapt your communication to theirs to convey yourself and not look stupid. Because if, for example, I am meeting an older conservative man who in the first place doesn't like tattoos, well, I will need to figure out very quickly on what points we can bond with him or her so that they will take me seriously. I also need to understand how much do they know about marketing, so I know what words I can use, because if they have no idea what the hell marketing is, they just heard that they need it, then you have to explain it in simple terms. If the person has also been in marketing before or is acquainted with the, let's say, lingo, then you can use these words. If you let's say, miscalculate those things, there's a high chance that you're gonna either not get your message across to the client, which is a problem, or you will not understand what they want or need, which is also a problem, or you will just look disrespectful. Because if a person has no idea what those acronyms in marketing mean, well, if I'm gonna use them, they're not gonna get me, and they're gonna think that I'm trying to be a smartass, which is gonna leave a bad impression on them, a negative emotion, and they're probably not gonna follow up with the project or whatever. And so when you have established your bridge of communication, the second step you need to do is to understand what the client wants, what do they need, and what do they expect. In regards to what do they want, you want to find out, do they want like a one-time service or servicing? Figure out if they want Google search ads or they want YouTube ads. Is it some influencer advertising or whatever else, right? You have to understand what do they need. Do they need to make their brand known, or do they need to attract more people to their website or social media Do they need to get new service subscribers, or they need to sell more products, or whatever else? You also should be able to get an estimate of their budget, because based on the budget you will already understand, okay, what is the possible amount of money you can collect for your time, and what will be the resource through which you will be able to operate in the digital realm, so to say. Because if they offer you like only, I don't know, 50 euros or dollars, there's not much you can do with it. So, well, I mean, in terms of like, let's say Google ads or social media ads, on LinkedIn there's nothing you can do with $50 or euros, so that platform is closed if you're that budgeted, so to say. And you also want to find out what are their expectations. Are they realistic, first of all, or are they like completely, let's say, delusional? Because if their expectations are delusional, you should at least try to communicate to them that they are slightly lost and that they need to reevaluate. But in that case, you should be able to explain to them the situation, how it actually is, and how they should, let's say, adapt to it. In that sense, don't just present them a problem, present them a solution, while also making them aware of the problem. And yeah, oftentimes people expect, let's say, a lot of traffic really quickly or many sales right away, when they have a minimum budget and their product is not really known or not really wanted or needed on the market. And in that sense, I prefer to tell clients that, look, it's nice that you expect those things, but realistically, it's going to take us a lot of time to get there, and you will need to pay a lot more money to get there in the first place. And if you want to get there fast, you better be like very, very wealthy. And so by the time you know what they want, what they need, and what they expect, what is their estimated budget, hopefully, and you also have an overview of their business through analyzing their website, social media, and whatever other tools or methods you use for that, hopefully by now you have figured out some form of an offer that you want to present them with. And that also comes side to side with your skills and aspirations. Because, for example, if I like doing landing pages or optimized websites, if I see that the client's website is up to date in everything, and they tell you that they need, I don't know, Google ads or, I don't know, influencer marketing, and it's not what you want to do, and that's not what you can even do, and there's not much to do in the first place, then, you know, maybe you should call off the meeting and say, look, it's great, you're doing great, but there's nothing I can offer to you right now, so let's part our ways. If the scenario is different though, by that time you should be able to tell them what you can do for them. Let's say what would be realistic and hopeful estimations or estimates for your collaboration. How much time it would take you to prepare for it, and how you would conduct it in general lines, so to say. I usually say that, so look, I am offering us to work with these platforms. I will manage the advertisement setup, the strategy, I will organize the content for it if necessary, and I will monitor it. So for example, every 2 weeks I will check how our campaigns are doing, and I will send you a recap of it. And so the client has the idea that yes, they have an understanding of what's going to happen. I am communicating with them, they enjoy that, and what else? They feel like they are in control because they understand what's happening, which is also good, because if they don't feel that way, it will be difficult for you to work with them later on. It will be more difficult for you to build trust with them. And when that is done and everything is communicated, Great. Hopefully you have come to an agreement and now you can go home and start preparing for the campaign. When you have come to an agreement and everything is fine and dandy, you go home, rest for a bit, it's all good, you did your job for the moment, or you go to the next meeting, depends on you. Now the next step is to make a serious plan or a strategy where you're gonna figure out how you're gonna push the product with the resources and the skills you have at hand. Are you gonna hire somebody, or are you gonna try to do everything yourself? Is it a good idea to do everything yourself, or is it a good idea to hire that specific person for that job? You should make a plan. Figure out what platforms you are gonna use. If you're gonna use social media, or you're gonna use digital publications, or you're gonna email marketing, or you want to go to radio or television or whatever else. You have to divide your budget, and you have to calculate it. Your budget is divided by platforms, divided by days, divided by campaigns or languages or ad groups or audiences, depends on the platform and how you are setting up your things. And then you have the estimated amounts of money you're gonna spend on each platform, so you don't go under or above the set budget you have negotiated with the client. And then the next thing is you need to prepare the headings and the copywriting and the ad materials in general. If you need videos, or you need photos or illustrations or animations or whatever else, all those things need to be prepared and organized, and you need to figure out why and how those materials are gonna appeal to your target audience. If you were thorough in your negotiations with the client, you probably have some sort of overview who is their general customer or what type of clients they want to attract. So you already have an overview of their audience. While in the process of making the plan and the strategy, you can also request the client to give you access to their analytics and metrics, so you can find out more details about their clients or about what is the user experience on their website, because that can also affect the results of your campaign, or that can be an excuse why the campaign did not live up to the client's expectations, regardless of if it was your fault or not your fault. One more important thing I forgot to mention previously is when choosing platforms, you should be coming from the place of, are your clients or the target audiences present on these platforms? How much time do they spend there? And how thoroughly you can target people on the said platform. Because, for example, in Europe, targeting restrictions are much more strict than in Russia, for example. And that, of course, affects the depth of your targeting, so to say. If you are in America, you need to pay attention to one spectrum of settings that you can target. If you are in Europe, there's not a different list. If you're in China, probably a third one, and in Russia, a fourth one. So that is something to look out for. It's also good to pay attention to how expensive and effective are ads on one or the other platform. Because, for example, on LinkedIn, the last time I set up ads there, the minimum budget you had to have was 250 euros. I don't remember, for a period of days. Google ads, on the other hand, are overall good, and ads on Instagram just, keep you in the back of your audience's head, so to say, which is also good. You want them to be able to recall your business or your client when advertising to them. And of course, you also need to get access to all the necessary accounts. For example, if you need to do Instagram or Facebook ads for your client's business, then, well, you need to get access to their business manager or their social media accounts so that you can do your job. You also, if you're working with Instagram and Facebook, you need to get access to their Meta Business Manager account, either get an invite there or connect it to your business manager. Anyways, that's for another video. Actually, no. But that's something you should just go on YouTube, because Meta platform is updated so often. I don't want to keep up with it. Just YouTube that one. When you have the access and you have the plan and you have an overview and the budget and everything's figured out and you're ready to go, last thing you need to do is to document everything. Document every single thing you did so far. Document the current state of the client's business. What's with their analytics, what you have done, and what is your upcoming plan for the duration of the campaign or the advertising deal in general. Because you will need to later on explain to them what was before you came, what happened when you came, and what was the result of your actions in the end. Because that should be, let's say, the proof that will explain and demonstrate to the client that they didn't waste their money, that it was invested reasonably, even if it did not produce results as soon as that started. Because sometimes clients expect that, oh, I gave money and the ads were running, why did I not become rich? It doesn't work that way, and you have to explain that to them eventually, possibly. Hopefully not, though. And so when you have documented everything, it's always a good practice to ask for a deposit from the client for the time you have already spent and the time you're gonna spend on running the campaign. Because there are times that clients don't want to give you a deposit and then they don't want to give you the final payment as well. And you want to be safe from those situations, because that's such an unnecessary hustle that is best avoided, not to, let's say, demotivate you too much. And so, when you have documented everything, you finally tell the client that yes, we are now starting, they confirm it, and then you set up the ads, you set up extra analytics and tags and trackers if necessary. Again, that's material for another video or course. And you go. You let it go. You let it work, and you let the algorithms take it on from that point on. Mostly, it takes from 1 to 3 to 5 days for platforms to process your materials, check them for compliance with their guidelines and everything. And then it just takes some time for it to for the algorithm to pick it up. The speed of it setting up sometimes depends on your budget. If it's too small, it's gonna take more time because you're not gonna get much, let's say, exposure. And it also depends somewhat on the popularity of whatever you are marketing. If it's something people don't look for, well, the algorithm will have no data based on which it will figure out if it's gonna choose your content to the audience or not. And when the ads have set up, I usually like to let them run for a couple of days just to get optimized by the platforms and everything. And then usually the platforms you're advertising on start giving you some information. For example, if the ads or the materials comply with their policy or not, or are they restricted in any regions. And the same platforms also often give you recommendations. For example, maybe you should add these keywords, or maybe you should expand the audience, or maybe you should, optimize your headings or descriptions. Maybe they're too dry and boring or whatever, So pay attention to that. One more advice as well. You can allow on Google Ads to auto-optimize itself, which basically lets the algorithm do its thing, and usually performance gets much better. probably soon we can replace ourselves with AI and do more creative things in advertising. And so yeah, when the ads are running, you just monitor them every now and then, optimize them every now and then you're good. It's a good, let's say, practice to do, let's say, bi-weekly recaps of how the ads are running, how things are going, what things you are encountering, if everything's working well on their website, and ask them what do they have to say about the results, because sometimes you get a lot of clicks, but you don't get many calls. Or maybe clients look at the products in the online store but don't necessarily buy them. And then, you or the client will later on have to figure out why that happened. And when that campaign has concluded, it is time for you to analyze it and to start making a case study. It can be a simple one, it can be a more thorough one. It depends on if you even need to do that or want to do that. But it's a good practice as well. It's good for your portfolio. And so yeah, you collect all the information, all the results, you compile them into an Excel sheet or into a presentation. You write down all the things you did and all the steps that were followed through with. It is also good to make comments on the client or the audience's behavior. For example, there are situations where just the purchase process is so annoying and so difficult that people just fall off midway. And you need to mention that to the client, because that is a valid reason of why your campaign was potentially not as effective as it could have been. Because I've had this project one time where that exact thing happened. Client's website was so glitchy, so to say, that clients were not very prone to make online purchases. Instead, they looked at the products online and then went to the physical store and bought the products. And well, on one side, the client could have complained that, the campaign was not successful because the goal was to get online purchases or sales, whatever you want to call it. When in reality, well, no, it was still effective, just not in the way we anticipated because of the problems that were not in our hands. Although, to be honest, it was my mistake that I did not go through the whole funnel and the whole landing page and did not notice these things, because in retrospect, when I later on followed through with the purchase, I figured out, oh, that is a big mess. I understand why nobody actually bought it online, but we live, we learn. And it is also good to write some recommendations on the things that you would do next month or the next period you're working with them, because in that sense you're already kind of implying that you should continue working, aka they should continue paying you. And in general, it's just a nice gesture to say that, look, these things can be improved, it would be nice, this and that, whatever. And when that is done, you send that report to your client. It's also good to call them or arrange a meeting to have a discussion face to face, talk about your expectations and their expectations and results, and how do you guys move onward? Are you going to continue working with them or not? Did they have a nice experience with you? Did you have a nice experience? And then if you can, you compile those things into a portfolio, and well, you gained experience, hopefully a bit of confidence. If the experience wasn't the most fruitful one, then it's still a good experience, because I also made a lot of mistakes and they taught me a lot. So I'm rather happy that I made those mistakes when I was young, and the stakes, or when I was not really young, when I had less serious projects, which allowed me to learn without any serious repercussions. Plus also, yes, I was rather careful too. So now that you, in theory, are done with your first client and your first project, you rinse and repeat. You do it a couple of more times with your friends and family, or if you feel comfortable enough and confident enough already, you start looking for serious paying clients and whatever. And now it would be a good idea for you to have your digital portfolio. It can be on social media, of course, but it's a bit more professional to have your own website with a domain and a work email and everything. It just leaves a better impression. Though it is not critical, so if you can't or don't want to do it right now, or you just want to stay on like Instagram or Pinterest, then sure, why not? And step 4, finally, at least for this first video, it is to maintain and build your online presence, which means being available and active on all possible platforms, creating content, creating case studies, and whatever else there is to create. I don't know, create courses or some shit. It is also good practice to communicate with other agencies and other freelancers, network and build contacts, because, in one way, other agencies are your competitors. On the other hand, they can be your partners and clients in a sense, because our agency works with multiple other marketing and social media agencies, and they buy our services, we buy their services, and it works great. Same thing with freelancers. It is also good to have many in your contacts, because you never know when you need a small job to be done, or there's a really good freelancer who does great things. So it's good to network and have people available in your contact book, or your phone, or Instagram, or whatever. And also something we have never done is also participating in different marketing contests and these agency events where they all measure their dicks and everything. In a way, it's nice, You can get awards for marketing and ad campaigns and everything, and it's also good publicity, and it's also good way to mark up your services and prices and everything, because that's again, social proof and recognition, which help in that department. Or you can just do good service and have your clients recommend you to their partners and clients. It also works pretty well. So hopefully this first video course wasn't too chaotic and was truly comprehensive enough. And hopefully you drew some useful information, advice, or examples from here. And maybe I will make more videos in between before the more thought out and paced expert and professional courses. So thank you for your attention, thank you for watching or listening, and I hope you have a great day.